Welcome to Solutions OP Clinical Trials Podcast. My name is Olga and I'm the Managing Director of Solutions OP. We are a small team of experienced professionals working on clinical trials in the United Kingdom. I'll use our podcast to discuss hot topics in clinical trials and provide analysis of the latest trends and challenges in pharma and medical device industries, not just in the UK but globally. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining again. The topic today is ideal framework and the surgical innovations. So for those of you who follow me, they know that in the previous podcast we were talking about using placebo in surgical clinical trials. So this new podcast is kind of a follow-up on the same topic of surgical development of surgical medical devices. So in our podcast, I will discuss ideal framework and how it was designed to support surgical innovations. Now, I'm far away from the idea that I'll discuss everything in big details, but I'll give you a bit of an idea about ideal framework and how you can use it, especially if you're looking to develop a surgical medical device. So let's start first with ideal and what is this? So ideal comes from idea development, exploration, assessment and long-term follow-up. So in short, it's ideal. And while we have a well-established path in developing medicinal products, this is not quite the case when it comes to surgical innovations. So this is why back in 2009, a group of clinicians, academia and patient groups gathered and created this ideal framework to help people who are working with surgical medical devices. So why was actually ideal needed in the first place? Probably you wonder. So the development of the surgical devices lags behind, and it could be quite different from any other devices. So research has shown that only 1 in 10 devices, surgical devices developed by academia, actually reach first in human stage. Which is quite a pity. The reasons for that could be different. The people could not have funding, or maybe they don't know how to develop the device and get it to the point of reaching the market. So this is why IDEO is trying to help and provide guidance to everyone working in surgical innovations, to help them establish what they need to do for their device to reach the market. So if you're working in that field and it's something new to you, you're not familiar, I strongly recommend to look into ideal checklists. So everything is created in the form of a checklist where it could help you to establish exactly what you need on a different stage of the development of your product. So talking about stages, what are the different ideal stages according to the guideline that they have created? So stage 0 is the preclinical testing. So they don't have any specific guidelines on stage 0, simply because preclinical testing is very heavily regulated by different country level organizations and regulators. So that's why if you have a surgical device that you want, for example, to test in do a preclinical testing, for example, in the USA, you need to go and look into the FDA guidelines and see, what is required for the preclinical testing. If you want to go to Europe, then you have to go and check what are the requirements in the specific country where you want to do the preclinical testing. So then you have the stage 1, which is first in human. Then stage 2 is the prospective development or the exploratory studies. And then you have stage 3, which are the randomized control studies. And stage 4, the last one, these are the long-term monitoring and registries. So as you can see, in a way, they have created a framework which aligned the development of surgical devices with the way it was created for medicinal products. So we have the same, different phase 1, 2, and 3 and 4 studies. And they have divided them in this case in stages. So what are the main challenges in developing surgical devices? So they could be quite unique, specific for the surgical devices. For example, how to determine the level of risk for the device. And also what type of studies you might need for your particular device. How to decide what you need to evaluate for the device. And again, how rigorous that evaluation should be. So if you have any doubt on these questions, IDEO is definitely something that you can look into for guidance and directions. So according to IDEO, the risk for the devices is assessed differently. And it's quite different from how this is done on a country level in different countries. It's complicated because basically each country has its own requirements and regulations. So IDEO have tried to create like a general guidance that you can follow to help you with the development in the product. Otherwise, for example, in Europe, the CE marking has a set of 18 rules, while the FDA in USA, they divided the devices into 3 regulatory classes based on the level of potential patient risk and stratification among 16 medical specialty panels. So as you can imagine, it's quite complex. One device could be classified in one class in one country, could be in another class in another country. But IDEO gives you a general guidance on how to develop your product based on their own classification. So they have divided the devices into 3 tiers. So tier 1 basically divides the devices on non-invasive and invasive. So tier 2, surgical and non-surgical. And then in tier 3, you have the devices are divided based on access to potential their potential harm to the patients that they can pose. So this is the tier 3, basically is the risk for the patient. So invasive devices are those which come in close contact or close proximity with any body cavity or open wound. So that will put the device into the category of invasive devices. So surgical devices are those that penetrate the surface of the body. So if you have a device which is like that, it will be a surgical device. And if you have invasive surgical implants, for example, they're further divided based on if they instrument, if they're absorbable, or if they're non-absorbable implants. So as you can see, they've tried to make these categories and help people who have different type of devices, because you can have really a big variety of devices. Maybe in drug trials we don't see that kind of variety that you can see in actual devices. While some devices can fall into the same category, they may pose different risks to the patients. So this is why it is important, based on this, to be estimated for each device, the possibility of failure, the effects of such failure, the severity of the failures, and also the overall risk level for the patients. So this is basically the tier 3, which allows, once you've classified the device up to there, to assess what is the risk for the patients. So IDEO framework goes further and into the classification of studies that are required based on different factors. For example, system. So based on the system, you need to establish if the device is necessary, if it's relevant, and if it's cost effective. There's no point developing something which will be so expensive that people can't afford to buy it. Then it might be, not cost effective for them, or it might not be relevant if there are lots of other devices which have better performance in the field. Then your device might not be relevant. So it is important to have these studies and prove that based on the device that you have. Also, in terms of patients, so if the device is meant to be used by the patients, it's normally you should have some accessibility studies to show how patients are using it and potential issues and so on. Also, in terms of clinicians, so if it's a device, surgical device that should be used by clinicians, for example, you need to have feedback on the usability of the device. And of course, last one is the device safety and effectiveness. While I say it's last one, it's maybe a high priority actually, to have the device safety and effectiveness assessed throughout all these different stages in different studies that you're performing. At the end, we can just talk a little bit of what is the actual purpose of our ideal framework. As I mentioned at the beginning, it is really to help guide people on how to classify their device and what kind of studies they need to conduct so that they can reach the market. But one of the main purposes of ideal framework is actually to allow low-risk devices which are beneficial to the patients to reach the market quicker. And at the same time, the high-risk devices, they should be evaluated properly. And another big purpose of ideal framework is to eliminate research waste, like conducting lots of studies that are not really necessary for your device, which increase costs for the manufacturer, increased the overall burden of creating research. It even increased the burden for the regulatory agencies because they have to review and approve all this. And also you might be exposing patients to unnecessary additional procedures and stuff which might not even be so beneficial for you to gain information about your device. So ideal framework is a really great place to refer to if you want to work in surgical innovations and you have a new surgical device. So if you haven't come across this, I strongly recommend you review it. And I hope this information was helpful. Thank you for listening.